To find out what a gull is, all we have to do is get the encyclopedia or dictionary. To find what Mahoney's gulls were or are, all we have to do is read what the different men who worked with horses or fought cocks along with Mahoney had to say about them. There were only 20 or 30 who gave their opinion, and, so far as I know, none were alike. That's the bad part about trying to write a history of strains. It fatigues the writer and confuses the reader, who may have heard only one or two versions of his favorite strain, so he picks the one he likes, and that's it. As far as he is concerned, he knows what his fowl are, every drop of their blood. The other who wrote the other version was just off a little cracked, ignorant, or maybe just wrote the wrong one for spite to hurt the fowl. But when we see where, instead of one, we have many, many different versions, we begin to have doubts, not only about the authenticity of ours, but of all versions. Mahoney stated in letter to his friend Ed Correa of the Game Breeder in November 1892, "Gulls and Ross are same strain. He bought a cock called Gull from Tom Baird of Toronto, Canada. He was a brown, red, white-leg cock, and Mahoney never asked Baird his breeding. He bought cocks from Baird from about 1867 to 1871. William McNeil, Mahoney's helper, named a cock Charlie Ross. The Gull was the grandsire of the Charlie Ross cock. The Ross and Gull fowl were BB, red with white and yellow legs. A few showed willow legs after later crosses were made." E.R. Carpenter said, "In 1870, Mahoney crossed a cock from Baird. Medcliffe claimed Baird brought these over from England in 1862, over Irish Derby hens. McCarthy had brought this blood from Ireland in the 50s. A cock from this cross was the first named Gull and the first named Ross. Medcliffe and Kilcourse both bred cocks for Mahoney, and they took turns breeding the cock until he died, and then passed his progeny back and forth until 1884. All of his get were called gulls. Mahoney practically never bred fowls, but gave stock he secured to his friends and then fought the cocks they raised." Hank Deans was a very close friend of Madigan. Mahoney lived with Deans the later part of his life. Madigan stated in a letter that neither he nor Deans ever recollected Mahoney fighting any fowl called gulls. He said Mahoney bred few fowl, as he was more of a feeder than a breeder. One writer stated they were a cross of Gilkerson fowl from Lowman over Mahoney Ross fowl. Another writer says an English jockey known as Two Little English George came to Hamilton-on-Ton to ride for John Martin, bringing with him some pure derbies. A cocker named Reed fought some in a main, and afterwards Mahoney bought a cock known as the Two Old Fairy Cock Two, and 2 hens for $50. That was the start of the gulls, he says. In 1912, a writer stated in Grit and Steel that the gulls did not contain a drop of white hackle blood. A late historian disclaims all knowledge of their blood origin, except that he is sure they contain white hackle blood. Long ago, in The Feathered Warrior, a writer had this to say of the gulls. About 1860, John Mulholland imported from the north of Ireland 2 strains of fighting fowl, one gray and the other black-red. He gave the latter to Mahoney, and they were the ancestors of the gulls. He goes into the matter to great length, however, and says that about a year before his death, Mahoney told him, too, in the course of our conversation, the gulls came from Dromore, County of Down. Then it is conjectured whether they were bred as imported or crossed with other fowl. Finally, reference is made to the Reed stock. Here is what was said to have happened. Denny rented 5 cocks from Reed for $5 apiece if they won, and nothing if they lost. 3 of them were impressive winners. Mahoney wanted some of the stock to breed, and so he bought a hen for $15. She was bred to one of the Reed cocks, but she laid nothing but soft-shelled eggs that season, therefore no chicks were secured. At this point, where the memory of the man runneth not to the contrary, no further facts were available, so it was presumed he bred her to the Irish cock, and from them the gulls were obtained, as the hen was known as a gull hen. Then the writer discusses the name and its origin. It is considered probable that the cocks as cut out for battle bore such a resemblance to the gulls flying up the Genesee River toward Rochester, NY, from Lake Ontario, that the appropriateness of the name became apparent and stuck from then on. As a further probable reason for the name, it was recalled that at about that time, a pugilist by the name of Gully was very popular in England, and that his name, shortened to Gull, may have been used to perpetuate the memory and fame of both the man and the birds. We can see that many writers who were supposed to know what they were talking or writing about gave histories of the gull many years after Mahoney had given all the history he knew in a public letter to Ed Carew and published in the Game Breeder in 1892. Since then, it has been reprinted in the Game Breeder, the Feathered Warrior, Derby Game Bird, and Grit and Steel. Yet these men, purported to know so much of the strain, had never even seen Mahoney's own version or disregarded it. And about all I can add after I get through talking about them is that I've probably been guilty of the same thing. There were many noted crosses or offshoots of the Gulls as bred by Mahoney's friends and fought by Mahoney. A man named Adair came to Kingston from Limerick, Ireland, and brought with him some brown, red, and black-red tasseled fowl. Metcalfe crossed the cock, Charlie Ross, over some of the hens to produce the Ross Limerick fowl. Some of these came with tassels and were the first to come that way. There were many substrains of the original Gulls, most of these being named after some great cock. Some of these were Captain Jack, Ajax, Battle Axe, and Broken Wing. See Mahoney Fowl this book, also Mahoney Gull and Commodore's 3rd edition. Gulls in the Philippines, Dragon Warrior Game Farm. Kuya Joe's gulls were originally acquired from Mr. Howard Belk in 1994. Dragon Warrior Game Farm's original breeding materials of gulls all came from the families of Howard Belk gulls of Kuya Joe Alimbayugan that we acquired from time to time since year 1995, together with other families of clarets acquired from Kuya Joe over the years. These gulls are closest to the English fowl known as the North Briton fowl. The North Briton fowls were brought to America by English settlers long ago. Kuya Joe's gulls were originally acquired from Mr. Howard Belk in 1994 in his farm in California, USA, through the help of his friends Mr. Vic Gamboa and Mr. Willie Swan. They are very fierce and are very powerful hitters. The gulls break high and they fight very much like the Hulsey Reds, but they pack more power. They are evasive and counterpunch and are very intelligent. The gulls are always straight-combed. The legs of the male fowl are always light yellow or bright yellow. During the breeding season, some would come out green-legged on the hen side, but it should never be in the cock side. He believes that this was through the infusion of the Irish brown red very long ago. He further said that according to Howard Belk, 1 in every 120 pullets will come out with white legs. Gull males sport dark red to lemon red type hackles. The hackles sometimes come out long and full, and sometimes it is short. It depends on the breeder's choice of the broodcocks. Some males have white streamers on the tail while some have none, but it is always black-breasted. On the hen side, 1 in every 75 will come out spangled. If the chickens are bred well, the throwback will always be on the hen side. Seldom will it come out on the cock side. But it has happened after we had bred pure gulls over the same father for 3 generations that we came out with rare spangled gulls. The bloodline is very rare in the U.S. and many do not know about it. Belk did not sell the gulls to just anybody in the U.S. who can or may fight against him, but it was okay if it was Kuya Joe, since he knew that he will bring it to the Philippines. Belk actually did a background check on Kuya Joe just to make sure that his gulls will really be brought to the Philippines. According to Belk, among the families of chickens that he has, the gulls are the ones that he loves the most. According to Kuya Joe, they are now also called the white hackles, but with variations in the bloodline. Accordingly, very few names have the original gulls. Mostly, they are yellow legs and some white legs. They throw green legs on the female side only because of the Lord Sefton blood, Irish brown red blood to her. So we may say that one big name who has them is Mr. Junior Belt, but he won't part or sell any, as it is known that he is a rich guy and very influential. He will not sell if you will breed it in the U.S. The clarets are also related to the Philmarsh butchers. Cull Madigan, the original source of clarets, borrowed broodcocks of butchers too for his breeding. This is the reason why the lemon colors also come out of the clarets. These clarets were acquired way back in 1935, according to Mr. Howard Belk.